Welcome back, Azerothian denizens. I am Garrett Weinzierl. She is Jocelyn Moffett, and this is For Azeroth. And we are both back from BlizzCon. Joss, how's that? How's that jet lag treating you?
Oh man, between how sick I was for basically the month of October, combined with Extra Life, combined with flying and drinking and BlizzConning and home, I feel like death.
Yeah, I do too. And I had an election on top of that.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm super tired. Still haven't really gotten back on the horse. Plus, I closed on my house yesterday.
Back on the horse? Is that a thing?
Yes, get back up on the horse. When you fall off the horse, what do? You get back up on it.
Okay.
That is actually, I know, I'm very aware, Jocelyn. I'm not coming down on you. I have been known to make an analogy or two that don't actually exist.
But that's actually.
But
one.
I will defend that one. That's a real analogy. But yeah, I even closed on my house yesterday, and I found the only thing worse than the Legion is trying to get rid of popcorn ceilings.
I did not understand when you texted me that. I had no idea what you were talking about. I was just like, you're covered in popcorn, but it's what? Garrett literally texted me something along the lines of being covered in popcorn ceiling, and I thought that it was maybe like a mistype or something.
Nope.
I was like,
Nope.
so you're covered in popcorn. See me? What? Like, I was trying to figure out what that ceiling might have actually been auto-corrected from. I was so confused.
Well, whatever you just pronounced almost became really creepy and weird. But so what, is that just not a thing in Canada? No popcorn ceilings in Canada? Is that like, no cats in America from American Tail?
What is a popcorn ceiling?
You look up at your ceiling and it looks like you took little kernels and just threw them up there with white Elmer's glue.
Like the bumpy, stucco?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, we have those, but I didn't know what that's
Oh, gotcha.
called. Actually, ours is textured, but it's not like bumpy. It's like somebody threw the popcorn and then smooshed it.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's what we would prefer. Popcorn's the worst. It's very 90s, and we're trying to get rid of it, and the only way to do that is to scrape it off. But this is not the Home Improvement Podcast. This is For Azeroth. We're here to talk about World of Warcraft. And BlizzCon was nuts, man. And I gotta say, we talked a little bit off air, and I think most people would agree that the Overwatch League was the biggest, like the single biggest announcement.
That was the biggest piece of news, yeah.
Yeah, but in terms of just of what affects the game specifically, new game content, stuff like that, World of Warcraft hit it out of the park with their panel. They had so much to announce. They brought so much to the table, and I was so confused as to why there was no mention of any of this in the opening ceremony. Jocelyn, we took a break to talk about DeepMind during the opening ceremony, and there was no mention of 7.1.5 or 7.2 or even 7.3.
Which, I mean, I kind of liked, because then when I went to the Warcraft panel, the What's Next panel, it was like, boom, in your face, this thing, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I'm totally blown away by all of the content that they gave us. But I think the reason that Warcraft was such a standout was because we weren't really expecting anything out of the Warcraft team. We were literally like, okay, what are they even going to talk about? Like, maybe we'll hear about 7.2, like the next raid, okay, whatever. And then there were other teams, like, for instance, Hearthstone and Diablo. Now, the expectations for those two teams were astronomical. They were so high, and those teams didn't deliver on the expectations. So I feel like because our expectations were so low for Warcraft, we all walked away with, like, brains leaking out our ears because we were just like, what just happened? That was mind-blowing.
Yeah, and that's even the thing. Like, I think on this very show we said, oh, well, this is, like, we got more or less what we expected, right? I think last week we said we expect to hear about the next patch, but and that's what we got.
It was so much more than that, though.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much more content to discuss. So let's get right into it with the big news this, since our last episode, which is everything that they announced during that BlizzCon panel, starting with our in-between patch. 7.2 is very much coming. They detailed all of it, but before that, we're getting 7.1.5, which is bringing with it all kinds of goodies. We're getting Pandaria time walking, and I don't know about you, Jocelyn, but I'm a big fan of time walking dungeons.
I loved it. I actually did all of the Lich King time walking dungeons as soon as it opened up this week.
Yeah,
time walking is my favorite thing.
So what's it like? Because you started playing in Pandaria, correct? So that's got to be cool for you, because it's not really It's not so much nostalgia as you actually experiencing it for the first time. And I know you've gone through a lot of the old content before, but when you do that, you're usually over level and you kind of just blow through it. So what's it like for someone who didn't experience it before and you're now experiencing it for the first time, where it's not just a walk through the park?
It's so much fun. Like I said, it's one of my favorite things to do because when I was leveling my characters, I was leveling exclusively through questing because I was leveling by myself. I was expansions behind my friends. So I never actually did this kind of dungeon stuff because I wasn't confident enough in my skills as a player to group with random people in this new game that I was experiencing. So dungeons were not my thing. I didn't actually run any dungeons until I did a couple in Pandaria, but not many of them because, again, even as I was getting to from 85 to 90, my friends are already at 90. Like I wasn't ready going into Pandaria with a max level character out of Kata, so I was still leveling through Kata when my friends were leveling through Pandaria. So again, there was just that disconnect. So the first time I actually started doing dungeons at level wasn't until Draenor. So for me to be able to go back and experience this and have the bosses, I mean, they're still dungeons. They're like,
yeah, they're not supremely
they're not
hard.
difficult at all.
Yeah.
Like they're not punishing like some of the mythics in Legion are. But to go back and experience that content, I mean, a lot of the stuff I've been through before, but like there's dungeons that I don't even recognize because I've gone through them so quickly in the past. So it's just like there's times where I like one-shot bosses and like I get all three of their voice like lines over top of each other because it's just like I kill them so fast they don't have time to go through their phases. So like seeing the fights and the abilities and all of that stuff kind of more in context is so much fun for me, and I love seeing all of this content.
Yeah, it's not crazy hard, but I've definitely died during time walking dungeons. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't announce that. Maybe I'm terrible and everyone else has never died during time walking, but
they are still 5-mans. Like you have to have 5 people. You will experience sometimes like if you don't get out of the poop, then yeah, you're probably gonna die. But they're still not they're not too bad. And they also reward achievements for like going back, like we just did Lich King. We actually got the achievement, I can't remember what it's called, but it's the one where you get Sorrowgrave to kill one of the like Hulk things. So she basically, it's in Utgard Pinnacle when you kind of go down the stairs and Arthas is like talking to that.
Yes, I ran that dungeon.
Kind of the stage.
I ran that dungeon so many times.
Yeah, so we were actually able to. Our tank was awesome, and he was like, "Do you guys have this achievement yet?" We're like, "No," and he's like, "All right, let's do it." So we went and grabbed the Hulk, brought it up onto the stage, and had her kill it, and we got the achievement. It was so cool. So it's like, and those are the kind of things like that achievement specifically is almost impossible to do when you're solo because you just like as soon as you tag something it just dies. So
yeah, it's actually
able
easier
to kite things around and do things like that is really hard when you're by yourself at max level. So this gives people the opportunity to go back and get those achievements and do all that cool content without having to level up another character to 80 and then like keep them there.
yeah no, it's actually easier when it's harder in that regard.
Yes.
You don't accidentally murder the thing. You don't have to get naked and, poke it with your fists.
Even then, naked Adwiel, she kicks ass in any of these I have tried, Garrett. I have gone into dungeons completely naked, and I still one-shot things.
One of these days, we need to come up with a way to like role play that. Come up for a reason that your hero, this person who has achieved the things that they have achieved, who have thwarted the evil that they have thwarted, have decided to just go and buck ass naked.
Drop their armor at the door.
yeah, just drop trow and run in.
Oh God.
Wow. Anyways.
But yeah, so this time walking allows people to actually go back and do some of these heroic dungeon achievements that are very hard to do when you're solo. So I'm glad that they're opening it up for Pandaria. I think that's great.
Yeah, I am as well. It's been a while since I've gone back, and I was like, oh, this seemed kind of too soon. And then I read the list, like, oh, Temple of Jade Serpent, Stormside Brewery, Shadowpin Monastery, etc. I'm just like, oh, I missed those dungeons. I'm so ready to go back and so ready for it to actually be a somewhat of a challenge again. I really liked Pandaria.
Yeah, Pandaria dungeons I enjoyed as well. And there's actually a couple, I'm just looking at the list here. There's a couple that I don't recognize the names of, so I think I might have actually missed some. Like I remember the monastery, the brewery, and the temple. But I don't remember Gate of the Setting Sun. So I feel like I must have missed one.
That was a high level one that I didn't. I remember not running a lot. So, but I'm sure we'll see it. Sure, we'll might even end up on a stream that we post to YouTube.
Yay!
If we do it on a Monday with the regular group. So we're also we're getting season 3 of the Brawlers Guild. They said they're adding dozens of new bosses. They're going to be adding things called rumbles, which it sounds like randomly trigger and bring spectators into the fight to fight a raid boss. That sounds awesome.
Well, because that was, I think, one of the biggest complaints of the Brawlers Guild, right? Is there was a lot of kind of waiting, because once somebody was, and I didn't do a lot of Brawlers Guild, so I don't really know how all this stuff works, but it was kind of like it was a one-on-one thing, right? And then so if somebody was doing it, you couldn't do it.
Correct, and you were kind of encouraged to watch, which is cool in a way. It kind of helps that living, breathing world aspect, which they even talked quite a bit about during this panel. But certainly, if you're on a highly populated server, it kind of stinks.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But yeah, so now they're going to let anybody watching get randomly pulled in to help fight a stronger boss, which I think is super, super cool.
Yeah, it sounds really cool to me. I like it. We're getting micro holidays, and these sound so fun. So very, very fun. So these are going to basically be like the holidays that we know and love that already exist within World of Warcraft, but they're going to be like, it sounds like mostly one-day events. So similar, more like Pirate Day in World of Warcraft, which is kind of like this little mini throwaway. So we're going to be getting a lot more of these types of things. And they mentioned some of the examples that talked about Volunteer Guard Day, where you literally become a guard and patrol your faction city.
Am I the only one that got really excited about like Volunteer Guard Day, just like going into the other faction cities and just like murdering a whole bunch of people because they're going to be there patrolling the cities? Like, this screams PvP Day to me.
World PvP, please.
Yeah.
Please, please, please.
Exactly.
I'm sure there's got to be some quests associated with it too, though. World PvP.
I would hope so.
Has gotten so much harder, at least fighting capital cities. I feel like since Kata, I think
when you
really
say
buffed
harder,
up the guards.
You don't mean more challenging? You mean like there's nobody there?
No, I mean more like we used to go and raid cities a lot in Lich King, and then I forget what the change was in Kata, but it's like the guards got way tougher. They netted you down a lot more, and it was just punishing to even try and start crap in a major city.
Right, I see.
And as far as I'm concerned, that still happens. A lot of my.
I was gonna say I've gone in with raids of probably 40 to 60 people, and the guards just melt. So
see, we used to do it in like a group of 3. It was like me and my 2 roommates, and we used to go and just mess with people, and it was fine because the guards were kind of hard, but not crazy. And then they buffed them up, and it was like, okay, we just can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's neither here or there. They also talked about hatching of the hippogriffs, which I'm looking forward to for no other reason than because we get a Pepe-style baby hippogriff.
Yeah.
So this is not a battle pet. This is not like a hunter pet. This is just an extra thing.
It's a thing you put on your face.
And I love Pepe, and I love hippogriffs, so give it to me. Thank you. But I think without a doubt, the coolest example they gave was on Courage Remembrance Day. This is something even I missed, and I've been playing since vanilla, but around the time the gates of AQ opened, I believe I was like level 15 and didn't know I could put talents into my hunter pet, and leveling took way longer because my pet held threat on nothing. I was playing survival. I was a moron. I had no idea how to play in vanilla World of Warcraft, and good God, Survival Hunter was rough. But so this basically, we're going to go back out to Silithus and take part in the activities that took place leading up to the opening of the gates of Ahn'Qiraj. So we're going to be gathering cloth, we're going to be farming bug parts. But the coolest thing is at the end of Ahn'Qiraj Remembrance Day, whichever faction did more gets their faction banner flown over AQ for a year, Jocelyn.
Yeah, and this is not server specific. This is region specific. So you are going to be collecting and competing against like all of EU, all of North America. Like, it's really, really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, this it's the world, or at least the region of Warcraft.
Yeah.
I'm an idiot.
Worldcraft.
Ignore me.
Nailed it.
It's all that popcorn ceiling I've been breathing in. That's so cool, and I can't wait to see what other micro holidays that they come up with.
Yeah, I mean, they've said basically for this and some of the other announcements, they've given us a taste, but they have said like this is not all that we're doing. So I think this is amazing. I can't wait to see what all of the things are once they're actually in place. So 7.1.5, they're talking about it coming out soon-ish, and not even Blizzard soon. Like they mean like literally like soon.
Yeah, probably in a week or two. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, exactly.
The other, what was I gonna? It would be cool for other micro holidays. I've never been one to take part in the Race to World First, but what if they started adding all of these X lead raid boss, Fall of Arthas Day or Fall of whatever, where it's like is linked to the world first kill of a major boss in a raid.
That would be so awesome. Like if you're sitting there playing World of Warcraft and then say all of a sudden a cinematic pops up saying like Xavius has been killed by insert, like guild name here or whatever, and yeah, that would be so amazing. I would love that. And I don't know how exactly the AQ40 opening happened, but at the same time, I feel like just the game and everything has come so far since then that it would be really cool to see them kind of pump out some sort of a notification cinematic to everyone when that actually happened, because then it's like you're in there, you're doing your thing, whatever that happens to be, questing or whatever, and then all of a sudden, boom, an adventurer and his friends have killed Xavius. Like, that'd be so cool.
Yep, be pretty sweet. Be pretty flippin' sweet. Sign me up. Might take a little bit of the wind out of some people's sails to go, and kill the boss, because story wise, then it feels like, oh, he's dead, it's taken care of, we're good.
Yeah. I guess there is a fine balance there, but I think as a player who would in no way, shape, or form ever be the first to kill anything, that doesn't really take me out of it.
Oh, I'm with you too. I'm just saying, I'm sure somebody out there doesn't agree with me, but
yes.
Also coming are class updates. There was a big emphasis on improving talent diversity during this panel, and this is something that's hilarious because we hear about this all the time in Heroes of the Storm as well. They want talent diversity. It makes sense. They gave the example of Barrage for Marksman Hunters. They said right now it feels like it's the only option in that row.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Like the difference in DPS is crazy, and the other talents they're not worth taking at all. And Barrage itself is a talent that I don't like as a hunter. You can use it properly by positioning yourself and all the rest of it and basically getting past the mobs that you're already fighting to barrage the other way, but then you risk pulling just as things pass. Yeah,
I was going to say, I'm not even a hunter. As a tank, I don't like barrage.
Yeah, and then so if you don't kind of turn your back to the rest of the raid, and like if you don't position yourself properly, the animation on barrage makes it very difficult to figure out exactly what and where it's hitting, like how far it's going and everything else. So it makes it really difficult as a hunter to gauge what you may or may not be hitting, and it just I don't like the talent personally, and then so the fact that it's the only option you can really take as a marksman hunter in that row, it just boo barrage. Yeah. Also, if secondary stats are getting it down, they said that they will be getting tweaked as well, so that there isn't such a disparity in the gaps between the best and the worst items. Yeah, secondary stats I find frustrating because when you get eye level updates, that should be like, if I have a piece of gear that's 840 and I get an 860 drop, the 860 should be a no-brainer. But then if the 860 rolls with your two worst stats and your 840 as your two best stats, most of the time it's not actually an upgrade. Yeah. So, it gets really confusing in those cases when it should just be a snap pick. And they've said in the past that they want eye level to dictate your gear choices, and they've kind of failed in that way with secondary stats the way they work right now.
Yeah, I mean, they mentioned that on the panel. They mentioned exactly that. It's like when you get an upgrade, you should be excited. It should be an upgrade. It's funny. I feel like at Blizzard, there's this Warcraft Diablo pendulum where sometimes it swings in Diablo's favor. I'm like, man, Diablo seems to be doing Warcraft better than Warcraft's, doing Warcraft. And right now, I feel like Warcraft is moving to do Diablo better than Diablo. And I think in a lot of ways it's already kind of accomplished that because both loot systems, they're getting very similar to one another. Mm-hmm. And I kind of like it, actually. I like a lot of the improvements that have made it the Diablo system that have made it a little more WoW-like. I really like a lot of the improvements in WoW that have made it more Diablo-like. But I think the big outlier there are these secondary stats. So
Yeah.
I'm anxious to see them get to get their tweak.
Yeah, I love the way the gear works right now with basically every piece of gear that you get constantly has the chance to roll all the way up. Even if it starts at 800, it has the chance to roll all the way up to 895. And it's a ridiculously minuscule chance because it's like you have like a 5% chance to upgrade each time. So it's like it's rolling over and over and over again to every like 5 eye levels to see if you're going to get that upgrade or not. So, I mean, like, it's a very, very small chance, but just knowing that you have that chance to roll so high, but then if it rolls poorly in terms of secondary stats, having that then not be an upgrade, it's like, oh my God, it rolled all the way up to 870. Oh my God, I can't wear it. Like, that's, the experiences aren't matching right now. So, I'm excited for this tweak.
Yeah,
I hope they make it a little bit more, public though in terms of numbers, and because Warcraft, I feel like with the gear, it's kind of, and it's Legion specifically, it's the first time that I've really paid attention to this and kind of gone into the whole like min-maxy type of a place. So I really want them to say like, okay, this is exactly how we're changing these numbers in the background so that it's, you know, allows me to make more informed gear choices when it comes to secondary stats.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And everything we just talked about, that's just 7.1.5.
Yes, this is the so one of the things that they talked about was the kind of small, medium, and large content patches that they're going to do, with the kind of small patches being things like 7.1.5, medium patches being like 7.2, and then large patches being like expansion level patches. And so the whole idea of a small patch, like this is a small content patch, is crazy. But they also talked about something that I thought was really important, how they're not going to hold things back anymore. That if they have 4 things planned for a small patch, 3 of those things are ready, but the 4th is taking some time, they're just going to throw the small patch in with the 3 things, and then they're going to move that 4th thing onto whatever their next content patch is. So it's very much a, this is ready, you can have it now approach, as opposed to, oh, you'll get it when everything's ready and done according to our plan that we've had for 2 years.
Yeah.
And so it seems much more in touch with the community.
Yeah, which I don't think works well for things like Christmas, but it works great in World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Well, I got this one present to wrap now. Go ahead and tear it open so that Christmas morning we only have, one little thing under the tree, but maybe that's not a great analogy. Ignore me. 7.2 is also detailed, which is going to be titled the Tomb of Sargeras, as that's where we will inevitably be heading, but not before, Joss, we return to the Broken Shore.
Yep.
And so many things are going down there. Good God. The class order hall campaigns are continuing on the Broken Shore.
Which is really, really interesting, because order hall campaigns we've talked about on this show before were some of our favorite pieces of content. We had a couple of people tweet us and write in and kind of say like, oh, I think it was the warrior one maybe was really not that interesting. But the ones that we've experienced anyways with the hunters and the death knights and the paladins and the priests have been really, really interesting. Actually, my mage one has been pretty cool too. As a blood elf who gets to wield Felmalorn, it's really cool. But in general, order halls have been the most interesting piece of content that we've had in Legion outside of the main zone storylines. Like, they're so robust. They're these experiences in and of themselves. Turns out, I found out today, Arthas's sister comes back in one of the order hall campaigns.
What?
Yeah, she's apparently alive. She's been hidden all these years.
Oh my God, my brain. What class? What order hall? What the hell?
I believe it's near the end, which I haven't actually reached the end on the priest side yet, but she's been hidden by actually, I think not by Prophet Velen, but it's kind of around the same time that they both come to the order hall, and she's alive, she's well, she's been hidden ever since Arthas killed his father.
I mean, you just blew my brain.
I know.
I need to go level I have a level 100 priest. I need to go level my priest.
So there's all these really cool story and lore pieces, and all these characters from past Warcraft stories are coming together in these order halls. So to see that they're actually going to continue, and we're going to get all these people, coming together on the Broken Shore from all these different order halls, it's going to be really, really cool and really interesting from a lore geek perspective.
Good God, that's nuts. Sorry, I just want to stop the show and go level my priest. That's all I want to do right now.
Just go find it. Yeah.
Yeah, just done, man. Just roll shadow and kill everything. Anyway, sorry. Back to 7.2. I'm an Arthas fanboy. We're getting a new faction in the Broken Shore called Armies of Legion Fall, and we're going to work with the Armies of Legion Fall to build a Legion Fall base, which will establish a foothold on the Broken Shore, and then we're going to. It sounds like it's going to be our hub as we take the fight to the Legion to eventually reach the tomb.
It sounds very. It sounds kind of like a combination of Shalaron and garrisons.
Yes, which as long as I can see other players, I'm totally fine with.
Yes, because I think that's the biggest failing of garrisons is that they were instanced just for you. So I feel like as long as they keep the same sort of feeling as you have in cities, as you have in Shalaron, and as you have in your order halls, I think this will be great. I liked the building up of the garrison. It was just too isolated.
Yeah, it would have been cooler if it was just a larger city where we're all working together. Or you know what was better? They did it. Class order halls.
Yes.
Cool. Done. Move on. But yeah, this is our class order is basically going to take us to this Legion Fall base, and we're going to be building up forces. We're going to be fortifying ancient elven buildings. We're going to be upgrading those buildings into one of 3 buildings: Nether Disruptors, Command Centers, or Mage Towers. I gotta have the Mage Tower. I mean, why wouldn't I want a tower full of wizards? That just sounds super cool. But there will be unique benefits of the 3 separate towers, buildings. They're not all towers. We can tell which one I'm going to build. But yeah, so you're right. It sounds a little Garrison-y to me, but in the right way. Like it's bringing over the things I liked about Garrison and not necessarily the things I didn't like about Garrisons.
Yes, exactly. And I like the idea of having to work together with the rest of your order. I think that's going to be really cool.
Yes. I also really like the idea of Legion Assaults because I can't remember because we've only done 2 episodes of this show, so I may have mentioned this on a different show or maybe one of the times I was guessing on the instance, but I believe I said I would have loved to have seen the Legion invasions from the pre-launch event built into World Quest in some way because World Quests do get so monotonous after you've done them a few times. And I'm getting exactly what I asked for, Jocelyn. Legion invasions are coming in 7.2, and they are coming to the Broken Isles.
So I have a kind of lore geek theory about this.
Oh.
And I have no idea if it was intended or not, but for those of you out there who are lore nerds who are like, why the hell did they just stop invading? This is my theory. I think if you paid attention in the Dalaran teleport scene, basically when Dalaran teleports to the Broken Isles, there are 4 ships, 4 Legion ships outside of Dalaran that are destroyed. So since those ships were what's fueling the invasions, I feel like the destruction of those ships is why the invasions stopped on Kalimdor and Eastern Kingdoms, and now they've had time to rebuild, and so this is why we are now going to get a Legion assault on the Broken Isles. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but that is the story I am telling myself as someone who really likes to get right into the story of World of Warcraft.
You filled in some serious gaps there, but it's okay. Like a Twinkie, I am enjoying the filling. I will also, and I don't think you're way off because, yeah, we're going to end up, from doing these Legion invasions, this is going to lead us down the path to a 3-man scenario where we go and take the fight to the ships above the Broken Isles. So I think a little more fuel to your making a couple leaps in logic fire. So we're also getting flying in 7.2. Yep. Part 2 of the Broken Isles Pathfinder meta achievement is coming, so we're going to be able to fly in the Broken Isles upon completing it. And we also have to mention class mounts! Oh my god! And I had to lean really far back from my microphone because that's exactly what I yelled on the floor of BlizzCon when they showed that little sizzle reel.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I think that the class mounts are really, really cool. Except for my now main, the Paladin. It's just a freaking horse.
Okay, I've been I've mained Paladin for longer than any other class and just recently stopped. I am excited as hell about that horse because my Paladin horse looks jank as shit. Okay, it is a janky
but
5 polygon.
It's just an upgrade of what's already existing. It's not like super cool because some of them are really freaking cool. Shamans get to ride an elemental.
I agree, but what you want a paladin to do that? What mount should a paladin ride? It has to fit the lore, Jocelyn. They're not going to ride an elemental because shamans or paladins shouldn't be riding elementals.
I'm not saying that they should be riding an elemental. I'm just saying that maybe there's something that could be super cool. I don't know.
A Naru.
They worship the light, which is the Naru. So maybe there's some sort of like crystal structure that they could make that paladins could ride, which would be so cool.
Oh, you mean like the crystal disc that mages get that I've heard from multiple people think are super stupid, including you? Yeah. I thought the disc was cool, and again, it fits the class. I'm totally. I've never.
What if it was a crystal? Even like a crystal horse would be cool.
Well, that's because I know you and you really like that. I don't personally.
I love sparkly shiny things.
I don't personally. All of the sparkly shiny mounts I hate. I think they're dumb and I don't like them. So, I personally I really like the paladin mount. I think it's fine. Yes, it's not as flashy, but it's a paladin, man. That's what you signed up for. Okay, when you join the Order of the Silver Hand, Jocelyn, or in the case of you only plays Horde, the ranks of the Blood Knights, you signed up to be kind of a milquetoast agent of the light. Okay.
I know I have a very Spartan lifestyle, but still, I don't know. I saw it and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, at least you're. I mean, at the end of the day, at least I think Warrior's got a cool mount. And again, I know you don't like the Warrior mount. I think it's cool, but
no, the Warrior mount. That's the dragon, right?
Oh, never mind. I'm thinking the Hunter one, the little wolf thing.
Yeah, no, I don't. And see, that's kind of the thing is the classes that I am maining in Legion are Hunter, Mage, and Paladin. And so having these 3 classes, they are kind of the ones that I feel got the short end of the stick when I see things like the Warriors on their dragons, the Death Knight mount's really cool, the Shaman mount. I'm just kind of like, oh man.
Well, Jocelyn, you should just you should join me on the dark side and go full Death Knight, because clearly I made the right choice, because I get another freaking undead dragon, and I don't care if I already have a couple. This new one's sweet looking, and that's why I signed up to play Death Knights. So let's go.
Yep. But overall, I think class mounts are really cool. And one of the things that came up, I believe it might have been in the Q&A later, but there's actually going to be variations based on spec. So just kind of like different colors. They're not going to be like crazy. Everybody gets a different mount, but just having the variation based on what spec you're in, I think is really cool. It's adding that extra little bit of, kind of discerning between the specs, which is something that they've been trying really hard to make each spec feel different in Legion. And so this is just one more kind of extension of that logic, is that there will be these different variations based on what spec.
Yep. Very cool. Maybe you'll get your crystal horse, Joss.
Maybe
you'll get your crystal horse. Probably, yeah.
That would be cool though if there was some like glowy like crazy thing, because I'm a healer, so
I want really a dark like red and gold horse because I'm a blood knight, not a damn human paladin.
Well, and that's the other thing, is that it doesn't really reflect my heritage, I guess, as a blood knight. It's very alliance looking, which I can take or leave it.
Yeah, although blood knights are a lot better now since you came in at in Pandaria. Technically, Blood Knights weren't nearly as evil anymore. They weren't tormenting a Naru to get their power.
Yes.
So when I joined up, that's what was going down, and now they're too goody. I'm sorry, I don't want to join the Boy Scouts, so I defected.
Icarus in the chat room says I need a unicorn chariot. Yes, I do.
I mean, if it was a unicorn chariot,
I don't even know what class that would be. I don't even care. I want it.
I mean, that's something you spend $25 for in the shop. But I mean,
I would spend $25 for it in the shop.
To the surprise of no one. Yeah, I mean, if it was a unicorn chariot, I would be on that thing. That sounds fabulous. No. Obviously, we're getting a new raid in 7.2. We'll be getting Tomb of Sargeras. So this will be after we get the 5th pillar of creation from Nighthold. We get to storm the tomb, Jocelyn. We get to storm the tomb and seal the portal. And at first I was like, yay, more black and green things. And it's like they could hear me naysaying in my head, because they go, in the Tomb of Sargeras, you will be descending down into the depths of the tomb of a once great elven structure. And as you go deeper into the tomb, less and less of the fell's taint can be seen. I just realized I talked about seeing a taint, and that sounds terrible. But the cool thing is the deeper we go, the less Fel influence there is, and it's going to be like Indiana Jones and the sweet-ass Tomb of Elven Awesomeness, and I am so in.
Mm-hmm.
Again.
I'm excited about this, too. I think it's going to be great. I'm excited about more raid content.
Well, yeah, of course. Who doesn't like new raids? Who, I dare you.
But yeah,
Full-time
the whole
PvPers,
concept of elven runes being kind of taken over by Agwyn after she killed the avatar of Sargeras, and using it as his tomb, and all the corruption up at the top. It's interesting to see what else was there that either she didn't realize or didn't use, or because to me, if you are trying to seal off the body of your greatest enemy, then why would you put it on level 1? If you knew there was more to the tomb, wouldn't you put it as deep and as far away as you possibly could? So I feel like all of this stuff is going to be completely separate from anything we've ever heard of the Tomb of Sargeras before. So that's why I'm excited.
I'm very stoked. We've already seen a model of Kil'jaeden that looks like we'll be fighting again. The husk of the avatar of Sargeras, which looks really flippin' cool. Mm-hmm. Though I would say not as evil as I would expect it to. But it does look very Titan-y, and he used to be a Titan, so yeah, I guess it makes sense.
Well, he is a Titan, and that's the whole idea, is that in his avatar, he infused the avatar with a piece of his soul, so that when Agwyn killed it, the piece of his soul then went into her, and that's how Medivh got corrupted. So, because then she was, all pregnant and stuff, and then Sargeras went into Medivh, and it was like a whole big thing. So, anyways, to see the avatar now, like, it's still going to be a piece of Sargeras. We're still not fighting the Titan. And I think that that's a really good thing. I think even when we go to Argus, we're not going to fight the Titan. And I am totally fine with that, because I think that if we do, that would be really stupid, because every description of him that we've ever seen has basically said, like, he can split a planet in half with his axe or his sword. And so if he can do that, like, I'm not going to be able to hurt him.
But
and
what
nor
if
should
we
I.
are infused with light, Jocelyn, and become one with the basically
no,
the forest
no.
of Azeroth and
No.
Illidan? Did you I have a question. Did you beat Legacy of the Void?
Yes.
All right. Is your biggest fear the same as mine? Because my biggest fear is that Illidan goes full silly anime like Kerrigan did at the end of that, and that's the answer to all of our questions at the end of Legion. I hope that's not
I don't know. I feel like defeating his entire army and purifying Argus would be a better story. Like, basically, then he's all by himself, and that's the end of the Burning Legion. I feel like that would be a better way to defeat him than actually fighting the Titan. But, I mean, I'm sure they could go some weird kind of, because basically the idea is that Azeroth is a sleeping Titan. So there are planets out there, and this is Sargeras' entire crusade, is basically to try to destroy all of the planets that are Titans. So to actually, like, maybe we infuse our beings into planets and become the size of Sargeras, and we have a big epic battle like the Pantheon did thousands of years ago. Maybe that would be kind of okay, but I just really hope that it isn't like any raid that we've done up to this point, where it's just like the 25 of us pew-pewing and trying to kill something that's way bigger than us, but is actually only like 10 times our size. In the end, like, that's not my vision of Sargeras, and if that's what happens, I'd be very disappointed.
I'm sure they've got to be aware of this, right?
I'm sure they are, and I'm sure they have a plan, and I trust the Warcraft team, although Chris Smith is not there anymore, but I trust the Warcraft team, so I feel like it'll be okay no matter what happens. I hope that there is some sort of explanation of, how and why we can actually fight Sargeras, because he's so powerful. He's been around since literally creation, and I kind of like the idea of, killing off his entire Burning Legion, but not dealing with him. So then he's still a threat. He's still kind of out there, and it gives them more options later on in the story, because we have no idea how many more expansions of Warcraft we're going to have. And I feel like to kill off basically what is the biggest evil in the universe in Sargeras, like, where do you go from there? And I know that there's still old gods and stuff, but we have a theory about that coming up later. So I just feel like if we finally kill and remove the threat completely of Sargeras, then that's not necessarily the best way to take the story. You can't destroy all evil because then there's no more story to tell.
And my dog is getting excited because UPS has showed up.
Oh.
Sorry, trying to mute
Do we
myself.
need to pause?
No, just trying to, mute my mic in between little chihuahua barks.
I see.
But yeah, I'm very anxious to see as well where they take it if they, handle it correctly. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't envy them.
Again, I have faith. I'm trying to just, let it go. But that was a total big tangent away from the Tomb of Sargeras raid, because if we are fighting Sargeras himself, it won't come until much, much later. So, yeah, basically, it's really cool that we're going down into the ruins, but then we're also going up because there is a spire at the Tomb of Sargeras, and it is called the Cathedral of Eternal Night. What?
We're getting patch dungeons. We're getting patch dungeons again. Jocelyn, we haven't had patch dungeons in like forever. Back in my day, this was a really big thing. Dungeon running has always been one of my favorite things in World of Warcraft. It's always hard. It's always like herding cats to get people together and do a raid, but it's always relatively easy to find 4 of your friends. I love dungeons. The only thing I love more are more dungeons, and we're finally getting one. It was a big thing back in Lich King. Like we had multiple patches that brought in not only new raids but new dungeons. It happened with TOC, and it happened again when ICC was released. We had 3 5-mans that came in with ICC in addition to the raid. So we're only getting 1 this time, but that's totally fine. We got Karazhan, which for all intents and purposes is a 5-man, and is even getting split up as part of 7.2. So that it can be a Mythic Keystone run. But that's neither here or there. Yeah, we're getting the Cathedral of Eternal Night. So we're going down into the Tomb of Sargeras for the raid, and we're ascending that big spire that we see outside of the tomb for the 5-man. And they even mentioned in the panel that like if you look down, you'll be able to actually see kind of the courtyard where you start the raid as you're ascending the spire, which is just super freaking cool. Everything is so freaking cool. Jocelyn, we're going into old elf stuff. I'm just so... Oh, it's the opposite of orc shit, and I'm so happy.
Yeah, this is like the no orc shit allowed expansion.
yeah, it was a little, much like when we had Cheesecake Factory the night after BlizzCon. I felt a little overstuffed on orc stuff.
Oh man, the thing that I'm really excited, I know you're really excited about all the elf stuff, but the thing I'm super excited about is what I think is Blizzard's best iteration on the whole weekly brawl idea, PvP brawls in World of Warcraft. This looks so freaking fun, dude. So fun. and Hezekostas' pitch of it was fantastic. Of will it be balanced? We promise you it will not be. And I love that. I love just caution to the wind. Everyone laughed.
yeah. We have enough places to have super serious, no holds barred, no items on Final Destination all the time. Sorry, Super Smash Brothers reference for you guys. But we have enough ways to play super serious PvP. Mm-hmm. Let's have some fun with it.
I'm really, really excited because you're going to be able to earn, like your honor and everything else because these are still PvP battlegrounds, but they're going to have super silly fun rules, so hopefully people won't take them quite as seriously, and you can just go in and have fun. And I think a couple of my favorites here that were mentioned, because I think they mentioned 6 or 7, is the first one is Packed House, which is taking a normal arena. So you guys have seen them if you pay any attention to Warcraft esports. You've seen these arenas. They're usually 2v2, 3v3, or I think the biggest...
the max is 5v5.
Is 5v5, yep.
Yep.
And so Packed House is going to be 15 versus 15 in that same arena space. Holy hell, it's going to be so good.
It's going to be so great. It's going to be a scene out of Mad Max or something. I can't wait. That looks really good. I'm excited about South Shore versus Torrent Mill because it's just going to be a death match. It's just going to be like old school when World PvP would happen between these two towns, and it's just is there what's the objective? Kill everything. Everything. Just kill them. I love that. That's great. Instant Cap Force on Gulch sounds absurd, like absolutely absurd. I don't even know.
Yeah, so right now, for those of you who don't PvP, Warsong Gulch, you have to have control of both flags in order to get a point for capturing it. So basically, you're no longer going to have to protect your own flag. You can just go get the enemy flag and cap it, and so it's going to be just super crazy death balls around these two flags, and like who can run and kill fastest.
Who can run it faster? Exactly.
Yeah.
So
and
good.
then my personal, I think, favorite is Eye of the Horn, because Eye of the Storm is my favorite battleground. So when you add in mounted combat on the rams from Legion and the ability to ram your opponents off that map because it's floating in the Twisting Nether, so there are like no edges to that map at all, being able to ram your opponents off the side of the map is yes, please.
Yeah, Eye of the Storm is also my favorite. It's really close to the Wrathy Basin, but I prefer Eye of the Storm. You're absolutely right. We all get sorry, shamans and moonkins, you're not special anymore. It's like they put Mario Kart in my Eye of the Storm, and
Yes!
I'm very in on that whole kind of idea. And the other one I really liked, if for no other than just because of the theme, and that's pretty much the only thing, is the winter time Wrathy Basin. There's really not a whole lot that changes about the battleground, other than the fact that the water is frozen over, so you can actually run across the river around the blacksmith. But it's just so cool to see something that has looked the same to me for, what are we at now, 12 years? How long has it been? 12 years, right? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. It's been 2 years since the 10-year anniversary. Okay, 12 years. For 12 years, I've been staring at the same thing, Jocelyn. There's been minor tweaks. Eventually, there were cast shadows and increased draw distance and a better lighting engine. But I've been staring at it's pretty much the same damn thing forever. And the fact that it's getting a winter setting is so cool.
Well, yeah, and the thing about Arathi Basin is that normally you can, go to the lumber mill and you can see what's going on and you can help, shot call to your team and everything else if you're holding the lumber mill. But they've also said that since it's going to be wintertime, it's going to be snowing. So you're going to have basically no visibility. So you're going to have to do a little bit more exploring with less information, which is going to lead to more kind of surprise ambush type situations, and I think it's going to be really, really fun for the visibility reasons alone. But yeah, like you mentioned, you also get to walk on water. So just all of the things that they're doing are these super fun, cool spins on existing battlegrounds, and battlegrounds is my favorite part of PvP. I'm not good at, and so therefore don't understand arena that much. But battlegrounds with objectives, I like something else to do other than just straight up murder people. So that's why I liked Ashran so much, is because there were these constant objectives that were popping up and things to do. So it's like a little bit of, it's not even really PvE. I was going to say a little bit of PvE mixed in with just PvP deathmatch, but it gives you something to do that isn't just murder other people. So to see a new spin on that, I think this is the best iteration. When you look at, brawls, which are now in Heroes, Overwatch, and Hearthstone, I think Warcraft has the best iteration of brawls in Blizzard games right now.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. We're also getting artifact updates. There's quite a lot to unpack here. Won't go all the way deep into it. You can find a lot more information elsewhere if you'd like to dive deeper. But we're going to get new traits for our artifact. There'll be a new artifact campaign coming in 7.2, and that's how you will unlock these new traits. You will not be able to embark on this, it sounds like, until you have maxed out your artifact weapon, though.
Which I fully expect to, by the time we're actually going to see 7.2, which will probably be in the new year, I fully expect to have all my traits maxed, because I think I have 4 more on my main hunter spec weapon that I have to max out, so I fully expect to be able to do this in time for 7.2. As long as you've been keeping up on your artifact knowledge, which something else they mentioned is you'll be able to buy that with order resources, so you won't be gated by time anymore, which is a catch-up mechanic. I think that, if you've been keeping up on that artifact knowledge, then, right now for doing world quests, I'm getting like 5K for the stuff that used to reward like 200. So just because of the increasing percentage modifiers that you get with the artifact knowledge. So yeah, and I think everyone's if you've been playing steadily, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to max out your artifact before 7.2.
And even if you haven't been, they're adding new artifact knowledge levels so that there is a catch-up mechanic now for those who either play alts or are late to the game. So
yeah,
enjoy that.
This 7.2 is making everything a lot more alt-friendly, which is great.
Praise
someone who
Yogg.
has a lot of alts.
Yeah, praise Yogg Saron. And then we already talked about the dungeon update, the Kara. It's getting split into two, 4 bosses in the upper, 4 bosses in the lower, and we're going to be able to keystone run it. So get good, son. That stuff is still really hard.
The mythic dungeons are also going to be made into heroic, so you'll be able to queue for them, so they won't actually be kind of locked behind that mythic difficulty level if all you want to do is see the story. So I think that's really good for the more casual players that, you know, like the more hardcore players have had their shot to see that story. They've beaten those dungeons, and now they're opening it up to allow other players to see that, because the Suramar story in particular is locked behind those 2 mythic dungeons right now. So you do have to go and complete them in order to further the story of Suramar. And if you don't have a group of friends that you play with regularly, it can be really hard to put a mythic team together, especially for Court of Stars and Archway. Those were challenging mythic dungeons. So to actually be opening that up to a new set of players is, I think, a great thing.
I agree. And then, of course, we already kind of alluded to it, but also alluded to during this big panel was Argus, that we'll be heading there in 7.3. It was later confirmed, like concrete. Yes, 7.3 equals Argus. Mm-hmm. So we're heading to Argus. Joss, how do you feel about that? Because I'm kind of losing my mind.
I'm so excited. I'm really cool. Glad that we are going to go to Argus, and we're going to go to Argus in a patch. I was a little bit worried that we might be seeing Argus as an expansion, and I think that was the biggest failing of Warlords of Draenor, was because we didn't really care what happened to Warlords of Draenor. Like, it wasn't really anchored in Azeroth in any concrete way. I think that we care too much about Azeroth as our kind of home base, as our planet, that any successful story needs to be told in the context of Azeroth. So I think going to Argus to stop Sargeras, it's still like Legion, the expansion itself is anchored in Azeroth. So I think that provides a really good platform for going to Argus to actually succeed and be a good story and be entertaining. And then, you know, we'll come back to Azeroth after that's done, you know, but the whole thing isn't off-world. That was my biggest fear when it comes to Argus, because they were dropping a lot of hints, and we had a pretty good idea that we were going to be going to Argus. We actually talked about that on our pre-BlizzCon episode, Garrett and I did. And so we kind of knew that Argus was the way that we were going to go, and I'm glad that they've made it a patch instead of a full standalone expansion.
Yeah. And that wasn't the only thing that happened at BlizzCon. They had a Q&A as well, and there was a lot of innocuous stuff, obviously, in the Q&A, but there were some interesting things. I'm going to jump around in here, Joss, and feel free to pick out some of the stuff you'd like to mention as well. The one I found interesting is that they said that they will make artifacts going away make sense.
Yeah, and this is one of the kind of interesting pieces, because we've got all these iconic weapons, and they have said artifacts are not actually going to be carried through to the next expansion, whatever that expansion may be. So, you know, when you've got Ashbringer, it's like, why the hell would I ever give up Ashbringer? And the only thing I could think, and I really hope this happens, is I just want Harrison Jones to walk up to us and say, that belongs in a museum, and then just have like a museum of artifact weapons from the Legion, like, just kind of, I hope that they do some sort of like, not necessarily a tomb, but just like a display of all the weapons that we use to finally defeat the Burning Legion, and that's how they get rid of artifact weapons, and it has to have Harrison Jones in it.
I will hate this game forever if that's what happens. Just FYI.
Why?
There's a little, there's a little Hearthstone part of me somewhere, probably closer to my butt than my heart, that would love that. But the rest of me is just like, no, it's World of Warcraft. You better make it epic. You better make it make sense, and it better be cool.
And they have now officially said, we're going to make it make sense. It's going to be cool. There were a couple of other points on just, how they may do that. But it will make sense. Don't worry, guys.
Yeah. The other thing I'm really excited about is that they said that the raid armor that will be coming in Tomb of Sargeras is going to be heavily inspired by Tier 6, which was Black Temple, for those of you who do not remember and or were not playing then. And all this...
I have no idea. That means nothing to me.
All this means for me is that I really need to just start playing my Warlock again, because that was the greatest tier set ever made.
The other, I think, really big piece of news that was dropped in the Q&A that could potentially impact across all Blizzard games is that they're looking at making the WoW token able to be used for other things other than just game time. So we're talking character transfers, faction changes, or, and this is where it gets really interesting, BattleNet balance. So you could purchase a token with your WoW gold and apply it to your BattleNet balance and then do things like buy Hearthstone cards or buy a hero in Heroes of the Storm. So I think, obviously this is, made to be a gold sink, but I think this could be great. This is a way that you can now experience all of these other free-to-play Blizzard games using WoW Gold, which you've been building for, in some cases, 12 years. So, I mean, this is a really great way for people to take their cash of WoW Gold and all of the time that they've invested into Warcraft over the last 12 years and apply it to some of these new titles like Overwatch and Heroes and Hearthstone.
Well said. Also, sorry, now I'm still stuck on that tier 6 thing. I'm wondering what the hell Death Knights are going to have, because Death Knights weren't around. They weren't a thing.
Well, it'll be heavily inspired by, so it means that they're going to take that kind of visual identity, and it's probably going to be some sort of combination of warlocks and warriors, I think. So if you look at those two tier sets, you'll probably have a good idea of where they're going to take Death Knights. Garrett, for the audio listeners, is doing an evil finger thing.
I just hope it means I get bone wings, because warlocks got demon wings in that set. It was sweet. It's dope as hell. A lot of cool little lore tidbits. They said that there is more to Vol'jin's story. They also mentioned that Ysera is very much dead, but her spirit lives on, and that there are implications about that in the future. And I mean, many of us have seen her kind of wandering around at the end of Emerald Nightmare.
Yeah.
But
they also mentioned Raytheon, and they said, yep, he's still wandering around Azeroth, but he will be back in a future content update. So they are doing something with him, which is good because
he warned us about this. Where is he?
Yes, exactly. There have been a few different prophecies about the war between Light and Dark and the invasion of the Legion and all the rest of it. And one of those key characters was Raytheon, and he was like, in Pandaria, ooh, the Legion is coming. And now he's nowhere to be seen. Although maybe he just like booked it because he was like, the Legion is coming and you're not prepared. Bye.
Yeah. And I feel like we got a tweet or an email every time we bring this up. But if you haven't played through High Mountain and all you did was watch the Noble videos, he did those original videos in the beta for Legion, and Raytheon did show up. But that's not lore. It's not canon. That was a red herring so that the actual reveal of the Tauren Soothsayer being part of the Black Dragon flight was obscured if you played through the beta. So Raytheon does not actually show up in High Mountain. Yes,
lore canon is that we have not seen him. So yeah. He is gone. He is wandering Azeroth, apparently.
Yep.
The other thing that they talked about is crafted gear. So those of you with professions like me who gave up your leatherworking, it was a good idea. They know that it sucks. And patch 7.2, they're going to do something for crafted gear, but they haven't figured out exactly what they're going to do. So for now, you're totally fine with your jewel craftings and your alchemies and your inscriptions and those kind of professions. Anybody who makes gear is getting the shaft right now, but at least they're aware of that. So
yep.
Keep an eye out for that. And then I think finally for the kind of really big things that they dropped out of the Q&A was the Stranglethorn fishing tournament. There are some people who enjoy fishing, and I feel like we leave them out a lot. So the Stranglethorn fishing tournament is coming back in 7.1.5, and they were trying to bring it back in 7.1, but the problem is with cross-realm zones. So Garrett, do you ever do any of the fishing tournament stuff, or is fishing right up there with pet battles for you?
No, it's not right up there with pet battles because I understand the appeal of pet battles. It's just not for me. I hate fishing, and it should go away.
Fair enough. So basically what they're going to do is they're looking at making it region-wide instead of server-based. So look for that in 7.1.5. Yeah.
By the way, I agree with, I can't read that, the big stamp in the chat room who says the fishing artifact is super sick. It is super sick. Unfortunately, I have to fish to get it, so.
So that'll never happen.
Not happening. God, that bores the living crap. I liked it when I first started playing WoW. And again, it's because I didn't know how to play. But back in my day, Jocelyn, my first main was a hunter, and you had to feed your pet, or it got angry with you, and it didn't do as much damage and wasn't as effective.
That's pretty cool. Or is this one of those nostalgia things that you're kind of glad
it was
you don't have
cool
to do
at the
anymore?
time when I was getting in at the ground level, as I was learning the game for the first time, when I didn't really understand the mechanics of the game, and I was really just kind of role playing it and enjoying it. It was cool that I felt the need to take up fishing and like sit in Darkshore on the dock and catch fish to feed my pet. Like I liked the story of that. I liked it in my head. About 20 levels in, I was done. Also, I found out I could just buy meat and feed it to him. Also, if I killed a bear,
and that
and
was
it dropped
going to
me.
be my next question. Why didn't you just buy it?
Because I was dumb and I didn't know what I was doing. But at the time, I thought it was kind of cool. But no, fishing bores the crap out of me in this game. I understand some people are really into it. Some people really like playing the auction house. That's the cool thing about World of Warcraft, man. That's what I like about it. There is so many systems in this game. You can play it however you want. Like you just want to be Trade Prince Gallywix.
It's a mini game for everybody, right?
Yeah, exactly. And fishing's just not my jam. It's not my jam. It was just more fun to have a little bit more of a heated reaction to that. So, just not my thing. Not my thing. But I think we should move to our lore segment as we're already an hour deep and we've barely made it through the BlizzCon announcements. But Jocelyn, this week you wanted to talk about Prophet Velen, and I think we should because hey, Argus and reasons.
Well, exactly. So basically what the big drop at the end of the BlizzCon announcements was that we are going to Argus, and the major character in World of Warcraft right now that we see the most often, who actually is from Argus, is Prophet Velen. So I thought, although he hasn't been that active in actual World of Warcraft, it would be really interesting for us to kind of get some background on Prophet Velen because he's going to have a huge part to play come patch 7.3. So
yeah, there's more to him than being the leader of the Draenei and doubling the damage and healing of your spells.
Actually, it was really funny because when I was, checking all my research and everything else, I just typed in Prophet Velen and then clicked on the first link, and it took me to the Hearthstone card. I was like, "Damn it, That's not what I wanted."
Hearthstone has made Googling key characters in WoW a little harder. It's still very easy to find what you're looking for, but a little harder. It's no longer always the first thing to come up.
It is funny, though, because, he definitely has had more of an impact on Hearthstone than he has on World of Warcraft, at least so far. He, like I mentioned, he hasn't done all that much. He basically disappeared for multiple expansions and hasn't really been doing anything because, and we'll get to this a little bit later, but he's been in seclusion for most of World of Warcraft since the Draenei actually showed up in Burning Crusade. So, but he at the same time is a very interesting character. So he is, first of all, super freaking old. He is a member of the Eridar, who were a peaceful race and had considerable magic and built a vast civilization on Argus. And they were led by three individuals, Kil'jaeden, Archimonde, and Velen. So if you have been playing World of Warcraft, you know Kil'jaeden and Archimonde are basically Sargeras' right-hand demons.
There's roommates, they like hanging out in their dorm, playing Halo and cussing at each other whenever one of them gets the rocket launcher.
Exactly. So basically 25,000 years ago, Sargeras appeared to these three and basically appeared as a god, as a benevolent entity, and said he would make them even more powerful with the end goal of uniting all the races of the universe. So to a very magical, very peaceful civilization, this seemed like a really good idea. But then Prophet Velen was actually given a vision by the Naaru and saw the truth behind the Burning Crusade, and that Sargeras didn't want to unite everyone. He wanted to destroy everyone. And so he tried to convince Archimonde and Kil'jaeden that this was actually a really bad idea. And they thought that he was crazy because, he was having these visions, and there had been other infected Draenei, they weren't the Draenei at that point, they were the Eridar. And they were, getting whispers and stuff. And it turns out that these whispers were from the Naaru, but, they had no understanding. They had no kind of outside influence up to this point. So Kil'jaeden and Archimonde thought Velen was crazy. And they were just like, no, we want more power, obviously. Like, why would we not do this? And so as the Burning Legion descended on Argus, Velen and his followers were able to escape on a Naaru ship made of crystal, which is why I say it'd be so cool to have crystal mounts. But anyways. So Velen and his followers were able to flee. They very narrowly missed being destroyed by the Burning Legion, and Kil'jaeden, who had been Velen's best friend, basically. Like they were the original two leaders before Archimonde joined the triumvirate of Eredar leaders. So Kil'jaeden saw this as a huge betrayal and vowed to hunt them down, even if it took thousands of years. So the Eredar who remained actually became corrupted and became demonized, basically, and they are now called the Minari, and they lead the forces of the Burning Legion because they were some of the most powerful beings that Sargeras had ever come across. So
right, and that's why you see
Legion.
so many red-looking Draenei running around that are powerful that you need to kill. That's why if you did TOC, that's why you face Jaraxxus, the Eredar Lord of the Burning Legion. Yeah, exactly. I also wondered, Joss, do you ever think that there will come a time where Illidan and Prophet Velen are going to sit down and talk, and you think Illidan gives them a hard time, like, yeah, man, I was told the truth of the Burning Legion, and my eyes burnt out. You were told, and you're fine, jerk.
And I think that probably comes down to
Naru showing it to Velen versus Sargeras himself showing it to Illidan.
Yes. the source of the truth being the Naru. They're much more obviously. It's the light versus the dark, and so I think that's probably the reason why Velen didn't get his eyes burnt out or go insane, was because of the source of his vision. But once the Eredar had actually fled, they ended up on Draenor, who you guys will be familiar with, and so basically they fled with Velen and they became known as the Draenei, which means exiled ones. And so then they named Draenor after themselves. So the ship that they actually escaped on, you guys will also be familiar with. You can see it in Nagrand. The orcs who were native to Draenor actually started calling it Ashengun. It's the big, giant, crystal, mountain-looking thing that is that can be seen in Nagrand in both Draenor, Warlords of Draenor, and as well in Burning Crusade Outland. You can see the ship that the Draenei used to travel across the cosmos. And basically they hid there for a real long time because obviously they were still being pursued by Kil'jaeden, but they were able to escape, so he didn't know where they were. So they lived in peace with the orcs for a really, really, really long time and established Shatrath. Velen had another temple built, which is what we now know as the Black Temple. But originally that was kind of his seat of power and where he did all of his prayer and worship of the light and everything else, and that was the temple of, I believe it's called Karabor, and now it is the Black Temple because it was corrupted by eventually the orcs, who were corrupted by, you guessed it, Kil'jaeden.
Yeah, the Draenei showing up in what would then be named Draenor. That was kind of the beginning of the of all the issues for the orcs, right? Because like you said, they got along fine, and it wasn't until Kil'jaeden found where the now Draenei went that he decided to use the orcs as a tool in his revenge.
Yes, and so this is the thing about Kil'jaeden. He's known as the Deceiver, and so he doesn't want to just bring the power of the Burning Legion down on the Draenei. He wanted to essentially destroy them, and not just, body, but soul as well. He wanted to break them down mentally and just to crush and destroy, not so much just, come in with Burning Legion demons, rawr, big fight, they win. That wasn't satisfying enough for him, again, because of the kind of best friend ties that he had with Velen going back to Argus thousands and thousands of years ago. So, man, this guy knows how to hold a grudge. So he basically corrupted the orcs, gave them fell powers. This is where we get the orcs kind of losing their shamanistic roots and going towards the warlock route. This is where we get people rising to power like Ner'zhul and Gul'dan. And basically, the corrupted orcs absolutely massacre the Draenei, and they're forced to go into hiding again. They go into hiding on Draenor. They don't actually escape from Draenor at this point. So Velen is one of the few Draenei who actually lives, and he and his now very, very small Draenei population, when I guess Ner'zhul opens all the portals to all the other worlds and creates Outland, which basically explodes Draenor. Luckily, Velen and his followers were in Zangarmarsh, so they were fine. But they decide that with the destruction of Draenor and when Illidan shows up with the Naga and with the Blood Elves, they're just like, okay, these are all agents of the Burning Legion. We need to leave, and we're not going to get another chance. So they take the Exodar, which is actually a satellite of Tempest Keep. They take the Exodar and they attempt to flee, but the Blood Elves, led by Kael'thas, I always say his name wrong. I don't know what it is, but I think it's that A and the E and the apostrophe. I'm just like, what the heck is this name even?
You mean there's a character named Kael'thas that has something to do with Quel'Thalas, and you don't have any issues whatsoever pronouncing it, kind of like Sauron or Saruman or other fantasies where there are multiple characters that are somewhat related to each other, or places and names that are too similar?
Yeah, like that.
Okay, cool.
So,
Just making sure.
Kael'thas and his Blood Elves actually sabotaged the Exodar, so it was basically left floating in the Twisting Nether around Draenor, around Outland, for an extended period of time before crashing into Azeroth. And so the kind of lore reason around that is like they're already connected because of the Dark Portal, so the Twisting Nether is basically bending space and time, and that's kind of why after leaving Outland, they land on Azeroth because they're already sort of connected through the Twisting Nether. But so when the Draenei with Prophet Velen land on Azeroth, he basically just secludes himself into the Exodar. You can find him in the Vault of Lights. He tutored both Yrel, who we met in Warlords of Draenor, and Anduin, who is the current leader of the Alliance, in just basically the light and meditation and everything else. But since landing on Azeroth, they have been pretty quiet, to the point that he has focused so much on the coming battle of light and dark, because basically he just prophesizes a whole bunch of stuff. That's kind of his thing. And one of the things that he prophesized was the coming battle between the light and the dark. And he was so focused on that even Tyrande had questioned his loyalty to the Alliance and just assumed that the Draenei were a neutral faction. But Velen did say that no, they're part of the Alliance and they're going to help them as long as they are needed. But his greater focus has always been on the battle between light and dark, which we are now seeing take place in Legion. So Velen is going to become a much, much more important character, even though he's been pretty secluded through World of Warcraft so far. But we do actually see, and we talked about this on Embrace the Spoilers before, we catch up with Velen in Legion because we need his help to unlock Light's Heart. And so basically after we get to the Exodar, we see that it's being attacked by Legion forces, and Velen thinks that the demons are coming for him again because of his kill Jaden, hates his guts and wants him dead.
Yeah, but they were after the Naru that basically powers the Exodar.
Exactly. And, so Oros was in the basement of the Exodar, basically, and yeah. Well, that's how it feels.
Like, go down and kick the furnace, honey. I'm cold. Yeah, no. I mean, you're absolutely right. They don't just send any random Eridar. They send his son, his corrupted son, who Velen doesn't realize until it's too late, and he has to watch his own son killed before him after his son destroys the Naru, powering the Exodar.
Yes, and this is when we kind of get the really big hint pre-BlizzCon that we were going to be going to Argus. And basically it's like, with all the stuff that I've now gone through about Velen, he is a light worshipping force of good. So the idea of him, even with the death of his son, the idea of him just leaving Azeroth to its own devices, it doesn't really fit with his character. So this was the big hint. He says that he orders the Exodar to be repaired because he says that they're going home. And I think this is the clue that yes, we are going to Argus. So we have now seen that we are going to Argus after we close the Tomb of Sargeras. So
yep, and he will rename himself. I'm excited for
Velen to have a really big role in 7.3.
I'm a little excited for him to rename himself Artanis.
When you start to draw some of the parallels between StarCraft and Warcraft, they're definitely there, and they're not even that well hidden.
It's a little similar. I'm okay with it because there's only so many.
It's a good story.
There's only so many big epic archetypes you can play with, but yeah, the exiled returning to their homeland to take it back is always a good rallying cry. So,
we have a question in the chat room. If the Naru is powering the Exodar, but the Naru is now destroyed, how will Velen get to Argus at all? That is not the only Naru. The reason that specific Naru, Oros, was so important was he was the last line of the Prime Naru, which was like the first Naru to be basically at creation. So that line has now died out. But there are other Naru within there's a Naru in the Priest Order Hall. So they are a race of light beings in and of themselves. So even though basically if you think of it like a monarchy, the line is now broken, doesn't mean that there are no more subjects to that monarchy, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's one hanging out. There's two that have been hanging out in Chatrath forever. One of them I can buy things from.
Oh right, yeah, Adal is in Chatrath. That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what happened to the one that the Blood Elves were torturing. Is that one dead?
No, I don't think. Well, not necessarily dead. I believe it sacrificed itself to become the new Sunwell, kind of ish.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily like dead. Its essence is just in the Sunwell now.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Well, let's take a couple emails before we wrap this thing up. And again, folks, if you want to send your emails into For Azeroth, send them to amovetv@gmail.com and make sure to include WoW somewhere in the subject line. Niels writes in and says, "Hi, fellow WoWers. I have an idea for a short topic for your new podcast. I frequently listen to the Instance, Roundtable, and WoW podcasts. In all of them, the hosts sporadically mention the add-ons they are using. I would love to know which add-ons you are using and what they do and why you have chosen that add-on. Best regards, Niels. P.S. You have pulled me away from Overwatch and Hearthstone and given me the WoW itch again. Sadly, all my friends stopped playing in Cata and Pandaria. Do you know of any good EU communities? Because all I can find is US-based. I do not."
Yes, unfortunately, both Garrett and I are based out of the U.S., so...
We're nice over here, though. You know, we're nice over here. The water's fine. Come on over.
The one thing that I will say is both Convert to Raid and AIE, so that's the Alliance faction or Alliance Guild and the Horde Guild. They have a lot of crossover between people who play on both sides. They are very wonderful and welcoming communities. And even though they are based out of North America, they are basically worldwide. We have members all the way, like we met people at BlizzCon who were in CTR from Australia. So that's they're such big communities that it makes it easy to find people to play with no matter what time of night you're playing. And I am a night owl. I am usually playing from, like midnight till 5 a.m. So it's even if you're not part of the NA servers, the guild reaches much further than that in terms of finding people to play with at different times of night. So I think, night for us, but different times of day, however you want to say it. Basically, that's the biggest problem with regional communities. But CTR and AIE are both basically worldwide communities, and there's always people online ready to play. So if that's your concern and if that's why you're looking for specific EU communities, then I would recommend giving NA a try and checking out AIE and CTR.
I agree. I enjoy AIE quite a bit. Never been into CTR, never messed around with it, but they seem like nice people.
They are very nice people.
Especially considering I currently main Horde, and they don't. They're very nice. As opposed to Jocelyn, who will try and cut your head off with an axe if you say anything other than for the Horde. So. Exactly.
Which is funny because I'm sitting here talking up CTR, but some of my best friends are actually part of CTR. It's a wonderful community and mirrors the AIE community in a lot of ways. So if you guys are looking for really nice, accepting Alliance players, I know they're rare because the Alliance, such racists, but.
Yeah, because
that's the whole thing. That's why the Horde exists.
There's been no racists whatsoever in the Horde. You never. I mean, no. Putris was clearly an agent of the Alliance.
Quiet, Garrett.
Sylvanas hasn't definitely dipped her, toe into some questionable things as well. There's never been anything ever that the Horde has ever done to where you go, well, maybe they're not as good as they say they are. Maybe they shouldn't be going in with the orcs and killing all of the sacred trees in the Elven Forest. I don't know. It's almost like there's shades. It's almost like there's shades of gray on both sides.
No, never.
Which, considering what's happening in my country right now, I feel is a very important thing to keep in mind in all aspects of life, including fiction you enjoy.
But anyways, yes, I would highly recommend both those communities if you're looking for ones. In terms of add-ons, I think that's a great idea because I know personally I have dabbled with hundreds over the years. So I think, yeah, doing an add-on segment would be a great idea, because like there's so many, and to dive deep into which ones you use for what purposes. Yeah, there's a lot of information out there.
I don't use a lot,
And
though.
it's confusing.
I don't use a ton of add-ons. I've never been huge on add-ons. I definitely pruned them over the years. And like I feel like most of them that I use are like, if I were to go down the list, it's like crap everyone uses. Like I use
There are definitely there's like a core set of add-ons, I think. But even within the core set, there's some that people use, some that people don't use. Preferences, for instance, like Auctionator versus Auctioneer, or Bag-On versus like Arc Inventory is the one I use.
I stopped using inventory add-ons when they added the like clean up my bag button, because that works really well now. And honestly, for whatever reason, visually for me, it's easier to like understand my organization when I have little windows as opposed to like one big box. So
I love filters. I love to be able to group items together. That's my big thing. So like I have all of my like all my hearthstones are in one row. I have all my herbs in another, and I find that really helpful.
Okay, fair enough. I'm trying to think of like, I'm looking at mine right now, and I'm trying to think of like my less common add-ons. I'm a huge fan of simple raid target icons. That's the literal name of the add-on, and it allows me to double click on a mob, and it pulls up a radio wheel of the target icons, and you click it, and it assigns it to the mob. As a tank, I love it. In case you ever notice,
I always wonder how people like tag things so quickly. I'm just like, open up the raid frames and then click on the thing, then click the like. Nope. There's so many clicks, and I'm just like, how do you do this so quickly?
Simple raid target icons. It's fantastic, and that's probably like the kind of. It's only like original one I can think of. That, and I love E-Align, and all it does is give me a grid. It just pops a grid on my screen because I cannot stand when things aren't aligned. Cannot stand it.
You'd probably just have an aneurysm if you looked at my UI then.
I might. Very, very possible.
I'm trying to think of the other ones that I use. I use Tiny DPS instead of Recount. Recount's another big one if you want to kind of track all kinds of different things. Tiny DPS literally just tracks like your DPS and the amount of damage you did to the boss in terms of a percentage. So if you have like super high DPS but you died really early, then you might have only 1% of the damage on the boss, instead of somebody who lives the whole fight who might have lower DPS but does 12% of the damage to the boss or something. So that's all it counts. But Recount counts everything. So I found that Recount was just too big of a resource hog, so I switched over to Tiny DPS.
I am installing it right now. That sounds delightful.
It also, Tiny DPS tracks DPS and healing. That's it. So it's a really, really small, lightweight add-on if you're kind of interested in those numbers, but don't need all the crazy detail and graphs and all the rest of it that Recount gives you. Trying to think of what else I use. Obviously DBM.
There's a lot of things I use just so I can move things. Like I use basic buffs just so I can move my buffs where the hell I want them. And I think it's... Oh, there is one. And this has been something that popped up in Legion. It was driving me up a flipping wall. You know the talking heads now that pop up? Like,
yes.
Ferrandis, like, just go do the thing and the stuff. I don't like walking on water. You can't move those.
Right.
And there's an add-on called literally Move Talking Head. No spaces. Capital M, capital T, capital H, Move Talking Head. This was driving me nuts because I put my health bar and my target health bar bottom center, like next to each other, and the talking heads were going right on top of that. And holy crap!
I use an add-on called Move Anything.
Yeah,
which
I found that.
Literally lets you move anything.
I don't need that. It gives me too many options. I just wanted to move that one damn thing. Move Anything. I installed once, opened it up, and was terrified by what I looked at. I was looking. I know you haven't seen Raiders, but it was like looking into the Ark of the Covenant at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Too much stuff going on.
But yeah, there are quite a lot, and you can definitely find people's like top 10 lists and all that kind of stuff. I would highly, highly recommend, once you pick an add-on, especially if it's something a little bit more complicated. For instance, for me on my Paladin, I use Healbot. Go to the website, go to the forums, like try to find how to use type things. Like don't just try to dive in and look at the settings, because you'll get so overwhelmed with most of these add-ons if you just dive in and try to use it and tweak settings without any guidance, because yeah, a lot of them are really complicated and give you a lot of customization options, but yeah, they can just be, they're really overwhelming, and it's really hard to find exactly what you want to change because what they call it might not be what you would think to call it. So I highly recommend looking for like how to set like a setup guide for each individual add-on that you're using, especially if they're ones that are more complicated, like DBMs and heal bots and, you know, all the kind of like big ones that give you these added tools.
Yeah, yeah. I'll give DBM credit. I think DBM works pretty fine if you never touch it. Like if you just install it,
yeah,
it does a pretty good job with almost no customization.
Absolutely. But if you actually open the DBM settings, it's like it goes down to, it's so granular. It goes all the way down to each individual boss ability, how you want to be notified by it. Like it can be really overwhelming if you go down into the settings. So yeah, I recommend just doing a first time setup guide, or like trying to find a first time setup guide when you're using some of these bigger ones, especially if they're a big UI package like, oh, I can't remember the name of it now, but so many people use it. It's gone. It starts with an E. It's EUI something. Anyways, it's another one that's really complicated, that if you're not fully aware of the WoW interface and everything that it does, that it's better to try to find a first time setup guide. There's a whole bunch of them on YouTube as well. You don't just have to try to dig through forums. So that would be my big add-on advice is make sure you find those setup guides.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Most of the add-ons I have at this point, I have picked up from friendly recommendations, and that friend has also taught me how to use the add-on, which is when, which is why I get the things like move anything when I get to them. Just like just too much. That's why at this point I've A, just stopped using so many add-ons, and B, when I do need to add something on, I find like the most lightweight, specific thing I can, because I just wanted to do one thing and I wanted to do it really well, like move a talking head. Thank you.
This next email comes to, do we not have a name on this one?
I apparently forgot to put the name in.
This one comes to us from name.
I will try and dig that up while
all right, I'll read it while you're trying to find it.
It looks like it was from Kevin D.
Oh, Kevin, thank you so much for sending in your email. It says, howdy, Garrett and Joss. Before I get going, I really enjoyed the show. Keep it up. I just wanted to share something super creepy from the Emerald Nightmare raid. After Xavius has been killed and you're in the core of the dream, you probably already know you can see the spirit of Ysera walking around. However, you may not have noticed what she does. I know, for one, I did not notice because I get my loot and get out. So apparently I made a giant mistake by not walking around, but he goes on to say, she's kind of phasing in and out, but she's wandering on the water towards the base of a tree, which was previously Il'gynoth, which is the my raid calls it the vagina puppet boss, because the big eyeball in the tree kind of looks like a vagina, and then there's like the tentacles look like it's doing a puppet show.
Yeah, okay.
And it's like looking between the two like it's talking. We
get it, Joss. We get it. You could have left it at vagina puppet show. Jesus, this episode. Okay. Continue with Kevin's email, which I believe had no intent to call genitals into question.
No, I'm just saying, that's if you guys don't know which boss Il'gynoth is, that's the boss. So she continues into the cave under the tree. Once you walk into the cave, the soothing music of the Emerald Dream stops, and it's just dark and silent. Ysera stops and seems to just stare in the darkness before turning around and wandering back outside. And then there's a link to the YouTube video, which will be in our show notes. Kevin goes on to say, the only thing in the cave is a dark little flower named Remnant of the Void. I've read that if you're a shadow priest, your dagger will whisper the following to you, which, being a shadow priest and having your dagger whisper, is super freaking cool, but definitely old gaudy. So the dagger whispers to you, almost completely gone, as if it never existed, but the rift is deep and vast, and somewhere down there it stirs. Something has changed. The last prison weakens. We must prepare. If you listen to all the whispers from the dragons, again, there's another YouTube link.
Oh, the
there's
dagger.
What?
The dagger, not the dragons.
Oh, sorry. Did I say dragon? Sorry, dagger. There's some more context that comes before that line. The dagger says, another seed of corruption planted in death. An unquiet spirit will wander in anger and grow in pain. Easy prey for the god of the deep. Could easily be referring to Ysera, I agree. Especially since they've said that we had confirmed in the WoW Q&A that Ysera, there are consequences to her death. So Kevin goes on to say, there's one more really noteworthy line from the Shadow Priest Dagger voice files. The god of the deep writhes in his prison, breaking free ever so slowly. You should hurry and defeat the fallen titan. There are greater battles yet to fight. And then so Kevin says, here's me calling it 7.3 Tomb of Sargeras raid, 7.4 Ny'alotha raid, with the last boss being N'Zoth. So we know that Tomb of Sargeras is actually coming in 7.2, and then 7.3 is going to be Argus, which is going to be our fight against Sargeras, however that ends, which means that I don't know if this is going to be 7.4 or a new expansion, but I definitely think that this is leaning towards hinting at N'Zoth for sure. And if you guys aren't familiar, Ny'alotha has been kind of teased for quite a while now. There's actually an archaeology relic that is like the puzzle box in, I think it's actually called, it's either the Yogg-Saron puzzle box or the Y'Shaarj puzzle box. I can't remember. But it's very much like Hell in Hellraiser. And basically, while you're trying to solve the artifact, it whispers a whole bunch of different things to you. And so Ny'alotha is this kind of like mythical city of basically evil, and N'Zoth is heavily tied to that. So it seems like we're going to get some sort of an old gods culminating in N'Zoth something. I think probably the next expansion. I think that all of that content is too much to group in with Legion. I think that we'll probably get 7.3 on Argus, and then possibly 7.4 as maybe we won't even get a 7.4. Maybe it'll be a 7.3.5 with just some kind of tying together content that is going to take us into the next expansion, because I think Old Gods and all of that kind of formation of Azeroth and the Titans and everything else, like all of that deserves its own expansion. I don't think that it could be just tacked on like a raid. But I think we're definitely going into some sort of like a... Oh, and chat room, Epic Lurker, thank you, says it's the puzzle box of Yogg-Saron. So heavily tied to whispery old gods.
Yeah.
And that's definitely, I think, the direction that we're going to be going with like the next big bad.
I'm just excited you made a Hellraiser reference. Yeah, I'm thinking that might, right?
Honestly,
it's got to be an
I'm
expansion.
going to admit this right now. I've never actually seen Hellraiser, but the reason that I know of the puzzle box is from Cabin in the Woods.
Oh, good. Good.
Which I
good.
It's like one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yes, as it should be. It's fantastic. Such a good movie. I want to go watch that now. Yeah, I feel like at this point, everything that got announced at BlizzCon, plus we know 7.3 is confirmed and going to be Argus. Everything going on with N'Zoth, it has to be another expansion, right? At this point,
I think so. I think to do it justice, I think that there's enough content there. There are enough places to go on Azeroth, both in a kind of current timeline and like a Caverns of Time kind of feeling, Bronze Dragonflight driven kind of a way. Like I can see us potentially going back in time and doing stuff with just all of them. Like seeing the creation of Azeroth and diving back into the history of the old gods and, you know, doing raids, like maybe that's actually what happened in the history of Azeroth. You know, it was the Titans versus the old gods, but maybe, you know, we were actually there helping to destroy Y'Shaarj or something. Like, I don't know. It just seems like there's so much that we don't know and haven't experienced when it comes to the old gods that they would be worthy of their own expansion. Not to mention the fact that we've never even seen N'Zoth in World of Warcraft. So I think that a raid with him as the final boss is almost a foregone conclusion. Like, yeah, of course that's what's going to happen. So I'm excited to see where they take this. But I think it's definitely next expansion. And I'm excited that we didn't just kill Ysera and she's gone. I'm really excited. I wish that I had noticed this. Like, I'm going to go and I'm going to kill Xavius just so I can get into this place and follow Ysera around. And the dagger whispers, there's just so many really cool little lore nuggets hidden all over Legion, and this is one of them. And oh man, I'm so excited now.
Bring it on.
I need to go do all the things.
I need to go level my priest for multiple reasons now, so I can get whispered to by an inanimate object and see Arthas' sister. and be like, "Sup, girl? You got a boyfriend? I'll be your Lich King."
I was going to say, there's some really weird, like, incestuous comments going on
Well,
there.
I'm not actually Arthas, so it's okay.
I know you're not actually Arthas, but
okay.
I know you wish you were Arthas, so then it goes on a little creepy kind of
all right.
there.
I mean, it all comes back to Ner'zhul at that point, who's basically an orc, so it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's cool. It's cool.
If your brain is being controlled by someone who's not you, is it still incest?
I was meaning more the manifestation of the spirit within the helm of the Lich King, not so much the body that is it currently. I'm done. Okay, thank you, Jocelyn. Not only did you bring genital puppet shows into this episode, you're warping my words against me in the worst way conceivable. So that's when you know
that's
that
why
it's
you podcast with me.
Well, that's when you know it is the end of For Azeroth. May everyone go and enjoy your vagina puppet shows. And I hope you liked the episode. We would like 5-star reviews. If you like the show, if you're listening on iTunes, if you want to help the show out, the best way to do so is to drop us a 5-star review in the iTunes store. Thank you this episode to JGram90 and Tangerine, who I wonder if they'd give us the same review after listening to the last 10 minutes of this. Just kidding.
What?
Like I came for the WoW show, and what I got was advice about popcorn ceilings and some rather blue humor. Who knows?
They should know to expect this from me by now.
Yeah, exactly. As always, subscribe to For Azeroth on iTunes and over at youtube.com/amovetv. You can catch us usually live Monday mornings at 12 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/amovetv. We will be your World of Warcraft morning show if you are anywhere other than the time zone that we currently live. You can also catch us live from virtually any device thanks to alphageekmedia.com. And as always, Jocelyn, where can folks find you around the web being your typically absurd and obsessed with sparkles self?
You can follow me on Twitch and Twitter. I'm at Joss Plays. You can also find the Gamers In right here on twitch.tv/amovetv every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Also, I wanted to remind everyone that even though our Extra Life 24-hour stream is over, you can still donate. You can donate right up until the end of the year. We're going to be doing a bunch of other streams and kind of trying to keep the Extra Life fundraising going. So you can go to bit.ly/TGI2016, TGI in all caps, and that will take you to our team page. If you would like to make a donation, make sure that you are choosing someone from the roster. Don't just hit the donate button at the top of the page, because as we found out during the event, that donates to Extra Life. That does not actually donate to our specific campaign and causes. So please make sure that you are donating to one of the team members. But yeah, thanks everyone for your support. The actual 24-hour stream was super, super fun, even though it was literally like right before I traveled for BlizzCon. But it was still awesome. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys for donating. It was a really great event, and it keeps going all the way until the end of 2016.
Friggin' sweet. Definitely go check that out. Fantastic cause. What is not a fantastic cause, but hopefully entertaining, is following me on Twitter. You can do so at Garrett Art, and everything else can be found on amove.tv, including another show with Jocelyn and I, The Angry Chicken, or another show with Jocelyn and I, Embrace the Spoilers. Currently, we're spoiling Westworld. We're actually going to record that shortly after we end recording this, because this is a weird week, because BlizzCon was dropped in the middle of it. Yeah. But as always, folks, thank you all for tuning in. And hey, until next time, For Azeroth.